Welcome to my YouTube channel Zona de Guerra YT. Zona 1965. America in the Year of Fire and Shadows. Introduction. A nation on two battlefronts. 1965 was a year when the United States fought two wars at once. One across the oceans in the jungles of Vietnam, and another at home in the streets of its own cities. Over 500,000. American troops would soon be committed to a war in Southeast Asia. While in Alabama, Mississippi, and California, Americans were clashing over the very meaning of freedom. This was the year America's ZONA expanded to foreign battlefields and domestic front lines. Chapter 1. The Vietnam War ignites. By early 1965, U.S. advisors had been in Vietnam for years, but in March 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson made a historic decision to send combat troops into the conflict. Operation Rolling Thunder began, a massive bombing campaign against North Vietnam. The first U.S. Marines landed at Da Nang, officially entering America into a full-scale war. Guerrilla warfare, jungle ambushes, and political doubt became the norm. This was the foreign zona, where the U.S. sought to contain communism, but became trapped in a conflict with no clear victory. Chapter 2. The Civil Rights Battlefield. Back home, the fight was for equality. Selma, Alabama, civil rights activists marched for voting rights, only to be attacked by police in the infamous Bloody Sunday, March 7, 1965. Martin Luther King Jr. led a successful march from Selma to Montgomery. President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, a landmark law banning racial discrimination in voting. But this was a zona where the enemy wasn't another country. It was systemic racism and decades of injustice. Chapter 3. Riots in Watts. In August 1965, a routine traffic stop in Watts, Los Angeles, exploded into 6 days of riots. 34 people were killed, over 1,000 injured, 40 million in property destroyed. The riots revealed deep frustration over poverty, police brutality, and segregation, a war zone in America's own neighborhoods. Chapter 4. Cold War Tensions. Beyond Vietnam, 1965 was still part of the Cold War chess match. The U.S. expanded military bases across Asia and the Pacific. Soviet influence was growing in Africa and the Middle East. Space became a new zona. The Gemini space missions prepared. America for the moon race against the USSR. Chapter 5. The Psychological War. 1965 also marked the beginning of a new kind of war. The war for hearts and minds. In Vietnam, U.S. forces launched programs to win local support, but the destruction from bombings often pushed people toward the Viet Cong. At home, television brought the Vietnam War into American living rooms for the first time, creating a zona of public opinion, one the government couldn't fully control. Chapter 6. The Global Zona Expands. In Latin America, the U.S. sent Marines to the Dominican Republic to prevent what it called a communist takeover. In Africa, America competed with the USSR for influence in newly independent nations. The U.S. was no longer just defending borders. It was defending an idea of democracy worldwide. Conclusion. 1965, the year the war zones multiplied. By the end of 1965, the United States was fighting a hot war in Vietnam, fighting a Cold War with the USSR, fighting a civil rights war at home. Every battlefield, whether in rice paddies, city streets, or congressional halls, shaped the America we know today. 1965 was not just a year in history. It was the year America's zona became global and domestic, physical and psychological, visible and invisible. Thanks for watching videos. Like a comment and subscribe my YouTube channel.